Welcome to the December 18th, 2019 Conservation Commission meeting. I'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First up is going to be number 10 Lincoln Road. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 18th, 2019, at 6:30 p.m. Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Marty Green, MMSJ Investments, LLC, Northbridge, Mass. The project consists of the construction of a new house, well, and septic system on maps 19, parcel 143, 10 Lincoln Road, lot number 2, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Welcome. We don't have a DEP number yet, right? Okay, any other applications with any other boards?
We submitted the plan to the Board of Health.
Okay, you're pending there?
And
Nothing with planning or ZBA?
no, we
Okay.
had submitted a 3-lot plan to the planning board. That's been approved in the board.
Okay. All right.
All right, is there anyone here interested in this? If so, I'll come up with this. I'm gonna sit right up here to see you better. You see the front, no, 3 of them. Yeah. So our client's proposing to build a house on lot 2. This lot is 2-acre lot, 250 feet wide, and there are wetlands at the bottom of the hill. It comes uphill from the wetlands. This is Lincoln Road, Central Turnpike's up here. There's another wetland that comes down onto Central Turnpike and comes down onto the property this way. So these wetlands actually wrap right around the lot like that. I kind of colored them up here with green. So we designed the house to go here as far from the wetland as we can. Zoning says you have to be at least 20 feet from this property line. We're just over 20 feet, 20.3 feet. We've designed the house with a walkout basement on this side, so there'll be no fill put around this side of the house. The nearest hay bale is just over 60 feet from BBW. House is about 73 feet at its nearest point. The well's gonna go back here, septic system's over here near the street, and the driveway's coming in on the right-hand side of the lot as you face it from the street. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. We're not proposing to fill any wetlands here. There's no work in any riverfront zone. There's a river down here that 200 feet from this point here. So we're not in the rivers area.
Okay. Who certified the wetland
I did.
border? You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Did our consultant go and review that? Have you?
Yes.
Oh, you did? Okay. That was my,
I have reviewed the wetland boundary, yes.
Okay. all right. Brandon?
Okay, so, I have reviewed the wetland boundary, that's where I should start. We have a bordering vegetated wetland with a 100-foot buffer zone and adjacent upland resource area under the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. I have one adjustment that I would like to request. I believe that, flag WF12 is a little too far down. And what I'd like to see is WF12A connected to WF11 and just kill WF12.
I'll just go from 11 to
Right.
12A, eliminate 12. That's fine.
Okay. Other than that, we have a complete, completely enclosed, limited disturbance with erosion control. What I don't see are signs, if the commission, I know there's discussion about signs at last meeting, so it's probably a good time to bring it up on a new application. I was gonna ask about configuration and whether or not things could have been minimized even more, but if you can look at the picture up on the screen, this is the area it's already cleared out. Yeah, in that area where the construction's already gonna occur. And I wanted to ask Norm, Was this area cleared out before? Was this a staging area perhaps for the forestry that we
Yes.
put
No,
on?
I think the
was.
people who owned the property before my client did some tree clearing, this
Mhm.
might have been a staging area for them.
It was.
Right, it
Yeah.
was.
When they cleared all the trees out.
That was a staging area. Okay, that's what I figured.
Processing area.
Unfortunately, when it comes to forest cutting practices, it's exempt. It's a conditionally exempt activity. If you go through the state's what's the department?
Forestry.
The forestry. And you get a approved forest cutting plan, you don't have to go through conservation, so they did a lot of work, which I think some of that work did happen in the BVW when it really shouldn't have, but we see that all the time. At least now, we can enclose the, the work area and let the rest of the forest, I guess, grow back. So my only real comment of substance to go to the commission is that of signs. And I'll leave that to you.
We were planning on putting up the signs, we put a detail of the signs here, and we put them right along the siltation control line. Probably every 50 feet, if the board would like that.
Norman, I'm noticing that the plan that I have doesn't match your plan. I don't see that. I have the septic system down in the lower left corner.
Oh, I think I emailed you the wrong plan.
So is
It's the
this,
same plan, but that was for the Board of Health, this is for the county.
well, this wasn't emailed. This is what was
Oh,
submitted.
I must have- Oh, really?
Do you have the plan with the sign on it?
Look through that plan, see what that is.
No, now that you say it, yeah.
That's right.
Is, see if that one's.
Yeah, I have a septic design, yeah.
That's what I have here.
Yeah, this is, we all have the septic one, not conservation.
It's the same plan except for the signs.
Except for the sign, yeah.
Telepathic.
All right, so it's just the signs are the only difference.
So where do you have the signs?
Well, we're gonna put them every 50 feet along the work area.
And where there's a
Okay.
bend? Okay, well then that answers my question.
Is that described on that plan? Does that say that in black and white?
I was just looking for it a few minutes ago. I don't see it on the plan. That is in order.
That needs to
That's
go in.
condition.
We can't close it, there's no DEP number.
There's no
Right.
DEP number.
Just fix it when you come
Does this
there.
lot extend to the?
Wait
second
1 second, sir, you gotta wait till after, we're gonna go through the board and then I'll give you a chance, okay?
Okay.
Bill?
So the question I have, in this lot that was recently broken out, I would like to state on the record that my understanding is this lot, the Bachelor Lincoln House is lot 1, and then there's the rest of the land, lot 3. So I do wanna say that I'm honestly quite disappointed that an ANRAD was not filed on this entire property. This is my understanding, 25 plus or minus acres, that was well known to be wetlands, and I'm, again, very disappointed, did not come in front of this board before this, cause my thing on this lot looks good. My question is, I just wanna make sure, because the lot has already been broken off by planning board, or 2 lots, that there's not a hardship coming in for the 3rd lot, which is completely wet.
Could you put up the overall site? I'd like to talk about that. So here's the overall site, and as you mentioned, the old house was up there, that's gonna be lot 1.
Yeah,
Lot 2 is this lot, which is in here.
where it was filled, yeah.
Yeah, then lot 3 will be the remainder. Now, we'll be coming to you with an application for lot 3 at some point, and it might be one of 2 areas where we're gonna ask you permission to cross the wetlands. This wetland comes down next to this house from Central Turnpike. So one option, we left a 50-foot strip here for one big retreat lot.
Yeah.
There's, in the zoning, you're allowed to have, if you have only 50 feet of frontage with extra acreage, you can have a retreat lot. So we might propose it coming there, or we might propose a crossing down here. There's like an upland area here, it's surrounded by BVW.
Well, that's my point exactly. It sounds like
That's
you
a
created
lot.
your own hardship having to cross a wetland because you've already broken off 2 lots, or call it 3.
Right. So we will be coming, you've asked your permission to cross one time, not twice. And it depends on who buys what, will depend on which application.
But again, my point is, I think there would have been differently had it come forward in front of us before going to planning board with an ANRAD file, because
But to do an ANRAD, you have to pay, I think it's $2 a foot or something like that. And the wetlands come all the way back here, all the way down here, all the way around there. It would cost like 10 grand to flag locate and get that confirmed. And it's a lot of extra expense.
Well,
for
we
land
don't-
that may never be approached.
One,
you
we
know?
don't wanna spend your money. Two, we have a cap on that, I believe, right, Brandon?
We do.
But third of all, it's a whole parcel, and that's my biggest concern. And the reason I bring it up, Norman, you're great. I'm not trying to be tough. There's many people that come into this room twice a month. Many people who have licenses that do what you do. Many people that looked at this property and backed out of it because of that reason. And I don't feel I can do my full job up here, where I know people looked at that property and backed out on it because they said, I have to file an ANRAD. So that's my thing. The 2 lots, you got 2 lots, more power to you, but I just don't want, and I want it on the record, coming in 6 months, a year from now, 5 years from now, saying, we have a hardship, we need to cross a wetland because you created 3 lots. 2 months ago, that was 1 lot. So, that's all I have to say on that, and again, I just wanna point out that I strongly feel an ANRAD should have been filed on this. Cause we're at the end of the day, we're the bad guys.
Yeah, my only explanation was that all of this would have been wasted effort because there's no work planned down here.
Before we,
Client would have spent a lot of money to sort that out.
before we go to the next, board member, Brandon, is there anything we could do on subdividing a lot like this to make sure it gets an ANRAD?
You can make it a policy.
Procedurally?
You can make it a policy that an ANRAD is required for certain kinds of applications, or I know another town that has a policy where any time there's more than 600 linear feet of line requires an ANRAD. Or you could say when there's a subdivision proposed or that has been created through an ANR, an ANRAD is, required. That's you can set the policy for that.
I think we should look into that, because, not this, but not just this, but even that debacle we went through, earlier this year. I think if it was
In
done
this case,
procedurally better.
I think that it worked out. In the past, it hasn't worked out for people. In this case, the wetland line, to me, looked correct, but that lot 3, it's an upland island. No matter how you cut it, there's gonna be a crossing to that area required. It's not so much, they created their own hardship with that, what's gonna end up being lot 3, it's gonna need a filing no matter what for crossing.
Even if it hadn't been prior subdivided?
Right, cause it's an isolated, it's got wetland all the way around it, no matter what. But you're right, there's sometimes where lots get subdivided in such a way that they could have gotten to the upland area, but they have a property line now that prevents them from doing it, and now they're forced into crossing a wetland. That's when there's big problems, and that's where an ANRAD could come in handy.
I think in our next policy review or bylaw review meeting, we should probably talk about that, because I think that would have been beneficial.
Yeah, and it's nothing, you normally do a great job, and it's nothing against, they got 100 lots, I'm for it. I just wanna make sure everyone was treated fairly, cause a lot of people did look at this property. So, I just think you need to be fair with everybody.
Joyce?
2 things. Number 1, you said hay bales. That's a dirty word. It's biodegradable straw oils. The second is maybe the planning board representative here can explain a little bit about their line of thought with dividing these without an ANRAD.
I was gonna ask what an ANRAD is. I always ask those questions. What does that mean?
That's to delineate where the wetlands are.
It's an abbreviation for,
Abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation. It's basically, it's a fancy acronym for Wetland Boundary Verification. So they, like someone like Norman puts up those pink flags in the woods in a row along the wetland boundary, and then they submit an application to verify that they got it right.
So, then that usually happens before it even goes to planning, right, when it's still in one piece?
It
If there's
should.
a
Typically.
policy and procedure in place, it could happen, yeah.
We had that
And
one
that
on
might help.
Boston Road that they filed the
Right.
ANRAD. They
That one's
didn't in West Sutton
back
on
to
8
sale.
Lots Road, and that one was a mess.
Yeah, that might help you guys out.
I guess with my planning board hat on, I'm here because I own some abutting property, so I never get to go to other meetings. I was happy to go see how you guys do things, see if we can do this good. Recently, someone was trying to build a house, create a lot, and there was a neighbor that was insistent that the wetlands map that the applicant had applied for, I had never had that word before, ANRAD, but they said, listen, that map's wrong. And we went back and forth, and it, like you, it got to be an agenda item we had to get rid of. I said, well, listen, I hear what you're saying. Are you a wetlands expert? And if you're not, if you wanna hire someone to go in and they'll give you permission to go in and verify that this certified wetlands plan says this is where the wetlands are, I guess we can postpone things, and the neighbor didn't wanna do that. I said, you know, how do I make it come out? Right, it sounds like you don't wanna have a house next door to you, so you should buy the land so you can look at the woods, but someone owns it now and they wanna build something there, and we have someone that's been paid to say this is where the wetlands are, and I don't go and visit property, I don't walk on people's property, even though they tell me I can. I say I just do it at the town hall, so, we should work together on that.
Mhm.
And we're always conscious about, people creating their own hardships, so I hear you speaking to that, and that's appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you.
When people come into the office with something similar like to this big lot, I send them to planning board first before they come through conservation, because it has to be split before it comes to us, or we can't deal with it.
Not for an ANRAD.
For an
Not
ANRAD.
in the NRAD, but when they come in and they say they wanna split this into 3 or 4 lots, it has to be split
Right.
before they do anything
Right,
there.
right.
That's,
I agree
that's
with
the
you there.
problem, is like which comes first, the
Yeah.
subdivision or the wetland
Right.
delineation and verification? Because by getting the wetland boundary verified before you subdivide, it prevents you from creating your own hardship,
Mhm.
which we've seen,
Is that interesting?
unfortunately.
Mike?
Yep, so this is pretty much all zoning stuff that we're talking about, which goes through the planning board. In this particular piece, whether we did an ANRAD or not, it was subdivided correctly, those 3 lots would still exist. I don't disagree with doing an ANRAD. The thing you have to ask, cause they're allowed 1 crossing when they develop land. So when you take a parcel of land, as long as it hadn't been subdivided in X amount of years, they're allowed to do exactly what they did. The thing that becomes in question, do we as a board, with our bylaws and the state regulations, allow a crossing? That's where, cause I've seen land like this before. And that's where the gray area is, cause it's the discretion of the board, do we allow the crossing or not? So that's where this lot may or may not become buildable. So it is protected, it is under all the regulations of zoning, it went through all the proper channels. I think what Norman's saying is the cost to do an ANRAD on this piece this large. But since I was on the board, I believe a few months ago, we had a even larger parcel with even more wetlands, and I think Brandon even made a consideration and kept the cost, I think, extremely reasonable. So that needs to be known. And I think it went really well, and it came before our board, and we discussed it all, and then I think it went and got subdivided. That was a little bit different than this one. So I think if we wanna have the chance to make sure the wetland boundaries are correct before it goes to planning board, it would need to be a policy for the zoning, for planning board, so that when they have their checklist for somebody's filing, that would be on there. That, I guess they went through our board and did their ANRAD. So I think that's zoning laws that would, or policies that would have to change.
Okay.
We already have everything in place to provide an ANRAD. So I don't think we're that far away from having it happen. I think it just would either be a policy, I don't know all the ways the laws happen, or a bylaw change to our zoning rules that would happen at town meeting. It would be one of those 2 things, either policy or bylaw change.
Another homework assignment for Jen.
Well, but it is kind of an important thing, and I think if you look at most towns, when it comes to 2 or more or larger pieces being divided, there's probably some of these regulations in
Part of the
place.
checklist, yeah.
Right, it's part of the checklist. And then so for our board, because like Bill's talking about, we've had a lot of calls and a lot of people and everybody concerned, because you can see the wetlands from the street, like you don't even have to get out of your car. It's a very sensitive piece of land. So had an ANRAD been done, it would have stopped a lot of our calls, people's concerns, because prior to this going to zoning to be changed, they probably would have had to go through the ANRAD process. Sus, less angst amongst all the townspeople, that's another good reason. I have no more to say, 'cause
Zach?
that's it.
I'm all set. I don't feel like I need to repeat anything that's already been said.
Nicole?
Okay.
Okay. Yes, Brandon. Quick.
Never mind then. Then it's an explanation of the gray area, but that's okay. What I wanna point out to Norman while we're here, eventually on lot 3, notice the dark blue line?
Yes,
That's gonna be presumed perennial,
yes.
so you're gonna have to do 4 days of observation, dry conditions.
Or just a river-
Otherwise, you're gonna have to comply with the riverfront
Yeah.
provisions.
Yeah.
So, while we're here.
Anybody from the public like to speak on this? What's your name and address?
Kristen Richards, 27 Lincoln Road. I'm honestly confused why we were asked or, informed that we could come to the meeting. What, what is it that I could?
Legally, when we get a filing like this, you have to notify abutters within how many feet?
300.
300 feet.
Okay, That
Just
is
to let you
happening?
know what's going on, yep.
so is there anything, are they asking for a variance or anything like that? Like,
Well, they split one lot into 3, which was
Right.
planning. They're asking for a variance from the wetlands laws to put this building within, what is it, that would be within 100 feet,
Within
right?
100 feet.
Yeah, within 100 feet of the
so
wetland.
closer than
Close-
normal?
Closer than what's outlined by the state in
Okay,
our bylaw.
Then I object to that.
Okay. And why?
Because it's, Sutton is a beautiful town, and like to keep as much, protected space, as possible.
Okay.
And allowing people to build. I recently built, I added an addition, and we did it all within the rules.
Mhm.
We didn't have to get a variance or anything. So, that's why the rules are in place.
Mhm.
So I would like to stick by the rules.
Okay. Anybody else from the audience like to speak on this?
Yes.
Your name and address, sir?
Richard Fassett, 11 Lincoln Road.
Okay.
And my only question is, what are the rules for, how close can a septic be to a well or anything like that?
Well, Title V is 100 feet, correct?
Yes.
But I think Board of Health can variance that down to 50, but I don't think you'd need to. Here's
I know it has to be 100 feet
Okay.
down, the new construction.
a new construction, that's right, yeah.
I think we're, right on the border of that with my
Gotcha,
well.
yeah, that's all Board of Health, that's not our board.
Okay.
And there used to be a 100-foot setback between the wetland and leach field, but that has since been, I won't say rescinded, but adjusted to
50 feet,
just
right.
be commensurate with what the state regulation says, which is 50 feet.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
To answer the butters, question or statement, is there any way this property could be pulled so it is 100 feet, so it makes it not needing a variance, I guess?
Lot 1 has just 250 feet,
Yeah.
and this has the next 250 feet. I'm sorry, there is the 50 feet here. There is 50 feet here.
But there's no way to pull the whole thing out of the.
Well, if we eliminated that 50-foot strip,
Yeah.
moved the lot up the hill, instead of being 60 feet away, it'd be 110. Yeah.
But then you'd be going for a zoning board.
I'm
Variance.
confused about that land anyway, so what is this? This is all one lot?
It's all the remaining land. It would require a
And-
special permit to be approved by the planning board as a retreat lot. So your driveway would come in, you go out back to a house out back, rather than going after this island lot.
So who owns this?
Same people
What do
on
you-
all of this.
Who's the same people? The
Marty
people that are
Green.
gonna,
Marty Green and
So-
Adam Vester and all of
when the people buy these lots,
Yes.
are they gonna also own this land?
No.
No.
No, they just own their lot. You know,
Okay.
So they couldn't be out here cutting trees and all that.
Right, so so why couldn't that be moved up then?
Well, there's wetlands
That's-
behind here, there's wetlands behind here. So you wouldn't wanna move the house any further back, it'd be
No,
closer.
up, you said up, like to this,
Well,
that-
there's the property line there, we're just 20 feet from it, and the law says you have to be at least 20 feet from it. So we can't get
no,
the
you're
house
not,
in.
I don't think you're answering my
I
question.
think I can answer your question.
Okay.
The reason it's laid out like that is because they need 50 feet on a public way to consider it a retreat lot. So,
Okay.
so if they get rid of that access, they won't have their back lot. They
I
won't.
guess I don't understand what that means, like, why do they need that back lot?
Here's a consideration.
I think they have 250 here.
Could you put that frontage on
We
the,
have 4 lots
could
here.
you shift, it? Could you like,
One of them's gonna go.
transpose
3 lots.
the frontage? So shift
Big
lot 2
farmhouse,
north and have that
tree lot,
frontage for lot
and then we'll
3
go down
on the
and
south
down.
side.
That's the first
Yeah.
thing we tried, Brandon.
There's 4 lots.
But
So-
the drive would have been.
No, he's right. They
Right
break the land
5
up.
feet from the
He's
wetland.
showing
I
it.
know you like to be at least 25 feet away. That would have been a real tough approval.
That's for remaining land, not lot 3, that frontage right there.
Yes, that's what we're
So
doing
is
right
that
now.
remaining land ever going to get developed?
It depends on which sells first. My clients tell me if the island sells first, we'll come to you with that application. If this sells first, we'll come to you with that. This is gonna require wetland crossing also, to come back here, because.
So there is
Then-
4
then-
lots.
Then,
Then you'd have
So
to
then there
cross-
are-
tell you how
you'd have
laws
to
are if
cross-
you
you'd have to
inherit.
cross here. There's an existing
You'll have
path
one
back,
crossing when you divide the land.
but I flagged it
I
as
think they're
wetland.
gonna do one or the
Even though
other,
it's all gravel,
not
it's
both.
been,
Yeah, no, the wetland goes up,
it does.
yes, it does, so,
So
but is
if
there?
this lot gets, if we apply on this lot, we'll have to cross here. And then this goes away, you're only allowed one crossing. If we apply on this lot, then this lot goes away.
Okay,
So
But-
you're,
so you're only
you're
gonna-
looking
time you
at a
haven't-
fourth house, is that what you're saying, possibly?
No, there won't be 4 houses, just.
Alright, I totally do not understand this retreat lot. I don't understand the purpose of
you
that.
brought up a really good, so,
The purpose is so that the, land can be used also, and getting to the rear part of the lot by using the 50-foot frontage,
By who, though?
whoever purchases. it.
Bob, could you explain, he's the
But you
chairman.
can't build on it,
He's the
right?
chairman of the
Yes,
planning board,
you
he
can.
can, he
That's
can,
what I just asked. I said, so it could possibly be a fourth house.
no, he can only do 3. Bob will explain
I
it to you.
thought there was an easement from Central Turnpike to get to
Out
that.
of here, I didn't
Bring it
understand
up.
any of this stuff.
It's a hundred
when I
planning
got on
board.
the planning board.
Unknown.
In Sutton, you need 250 feet to have a house. What was happening 20 years ago, when I was young and learning things on the planning board, the only big parcels were being purchased, and developers were building roads, and everything looked cookie cut and perfect, like the rest of the world. So in an effort to preserve open space and make sure that we had lots of open space, the planning board went to town meeting and said, if we allow frontage to be reduced to 50 feet, will require 3 times the acreage. We'll create these things called retreat lots that will make sure everything isn't a cookie cut development with and that's what a retreat lot is, so if someone has a retreat lot, they have to have 3 times the acreage everyone else does. And that's
And you
an
have to
effort
have,
make it, so a guy that has a big piece of property, can entertain someone that isn't a developer. And then the retreat lots started coming in, and we always assumed the retreat lots were gonna have new houses. People get hired to draw lines, the retreat lot has 50 feet, the existing house stays there. And the 3 acres gets the new house in the back, so it didn't go the way we wanted, but at this point, I still say it's one way of preserving open space, that's working.
We looked at that, we thought about putting in a road and a cul-de-sac versus one retreat lot. And it's about the same amount of profit, because the road costs a lot of money to put in. You'd have to cross this wetland, so we said just go with one retreat lot and forget about a 3-lot
But
subdivision.
that's what they're keeping the 50 feet, so they can have access in the future. And that's when they were speaking to, earlier, to the fact that, does that mean they're creating their own hardship? You can't do that, you can't create your own hardship. So, that's a discussion we have a lot.
Anybody
Is
else?
that helpful? Did I answer your question? What a
I think
retreat
so,
lot is?
I still object the way it is, being so close to the wetlands.
We understand.
I have a question
Yes, sir.
for access to that, retreat lot, is there anything on Central Turnpike? Cause I thought there was at one point.
It does not appear that way, the way that the land is broken out.
No, nothing in historic data to show that there used to be.
Like a cart road or something? I wouldn't know that, I don't.
Yeah, there's no other way in, yeah.
Retreat lot's almost all wetlands, so, but is it being opened up that it could be developed at one point?
They
in the
can only do
future?
3 lots.
3 houses.
3 houses. One of these has
'Cause
to
they have
stay
4
open.
lots.
Right, so one of them has to stay open, and as Norm's trying to say, it's either gonna be that island lot
Mhm.
or the big lot, one or the other, not both.
Can't build in wetlands.
And you can't build in the wetland.
Cause that, yeah, that lot 3, that island is maybe the size of a house, so I don't know where you can put a septic or a
Gotcha.
well at the same time.
That's not our
Yeah.
that's Board of Health.
Okay,
So it's gotta pass through many boards before it could get approved anyway.
right.
Brandon?
In the interest of impact avoidance and minimization, and the fact that you can only develop 3 lots, 3 houses, I'm wondering about the wisdom of shifting, doing that switch with the frontage that is currently on the north side of Lot 2 to be on the south side of Lot 2. And what concerns me is that we don't know what the full extent of the wetland area is on that retreat lot. So we don't know how developable it is from a wetlands protection standpoint. So, if you were able to shift Lot 2 to the north, you would take most of that buildable area outside of jurisdiction, which is a good thing, is something that the bylaw requires. But it's either gonna be Lot 3 or Lot 4 that's gonna get developed, you don't quite know, but at the same time, the commission doesn't know really at all what the wetland configuration is on that retreat lot, so a decision really can't be made regarding impact avoidance and minimization here. It makes it very difficult, but you're hamstringing the commission
Well,
in that respect.
The ANRAD would have come in handy for that.
the first thing we had hoped was that we could go 250, and then have the driveway in. But we couldn't, because the driveway was right down along the edge of wet. And we couldn't meet the lot width, 250-foot lot width, 250-foot lot width. So this driveway would be skirting the wetland from the street, almost about, I don't know, 800 feet, and then up here, and then cross like that. So that didn't seem like a viable future, you know?
Well, on Lot 3, I know there's gonna be if you were to develop that lot, there's gonna be a crossing, but I just, I eyeballed it. I think it's gonna be less than 5,000 square feet.
Oh, inside?
To
The
get
crossing
from
would be
Lincoln Road to
less.
the developable
Yeah,
area.
actually, there used to be a cart path there, there used to be a road there 100 years ago.
Okay, so that makes things easier.
We are way behind schedule.
Yeah, I'm trying to,
So
Well, we have
what
to run
he's,
up a good-
going off of what he's saying here, if, as it's set up right now, he's asking for a request for lot 2.
Mhm.
He's gonna need a request for lot 3, and then he's already setting himself up for the larger lot if in the future. So there's
It's
three
no future. It's either, it's one or the other, it's not both.
Okay, so with splitting up the lot with the 4 different lots, then you have, this house requires an adjustment,
Mhm.
the next house is gonna require an adjustment. But if you can eliminate at least one of those adjustments, if you move that access to the south, put this lot that they're trying to build on now north, then you won't need an adjustment for that lot, and then everything else, you would just be getting one adjustment out of this whole property.
But you can only do 2 lots because the roadway would be on top of the wetland.
With respect through the chair, that's creating their own hardship. This was one lot 3 months ago, and this is why I'd actually like to make a motion that before anything goes further, an ANRAD be filed on the entire property owned by Marty Green MMSJ Investments, because I feel that this is gonna come through and it's gonna be lot 3 and lot 4, and we've got people here that are landowners and abutters, and this one's not sitting well with me. I just don't think this was.
We are starting to beat a dead horse there. I think I'm with Bill on this. Mike, did you have anything else to say on this? I know you had tried to.
That was a motion, yeah.
It's confusing, it's all zoning questions, like, so how do we have 4 lots when we're talking about 3?
Right.
That, just answer that one question. So if we created 4 lots, there's 4 lots, correct?
But they
Or do
can-
we correct, what is it?
There's only 3 buildable lots right now, but there's a potential for a special permit for this here, but that would require a crossing.
But
Then you get
that's-
into the
that's what I'm
wetland
getting
bylaw,
at.
that
That's-
says you
that
only
makes
have
it
one
4.
crossing.
Gotcha.
So then so this is what the neighbors are trying to get at. Why did you create 4 lots? Why didn't you create 3 250, 250,
Right.
and whatever the rest of the frontage is to a big lot. If there isn't 4 lots there. That's what
And it's
is
no-
hard for everybody to understand, cause there's 4 lots on that paper, you can say that there's 3, there's 4.
And Norman, with
Why isn't
respect to-
there 3?
That's why
Period,
so
end of the
many
story.
people
But
backed out of
if we
this,
don't have
'cause
to answer that, it's all zoning.
they didn't want to, because like you said, it's expensive, but that's why they passed on buying the property. And I just don't, this one doesn't sit right with me, especially when there's a lot of people that come in this room, like I said, twice a month, that do what you do and looked at this and told me they looked at this property and backed out of it because of this reason. So I'm gonna stick with the motion I made on this one.
I'll second it.
And could you repeat the motion
The
again?
motion was that an
Just a
ANRAD,
question before are we within our rights to ask for this? Because is this where we start to say we feel the lots around are gonna affect this lot, so we wanna understand them all, kind of criteria?
Yeah, it's the point of bringing the whole project into the open, so you have the whole picture instead of just part of the
Right,
picture.
and I think that's a good idea, cause
Firmly
I'm
believe that's
confused.
the right thing to do.
Alright, so we,
so if I'm in my right, I would like to make a motion that this be put on hold and ANRAD be filed on everything that's owned by, MMSJ.
Could
So-
I interject one thought here before you vote, unless I second it? Because.
it's been seconded.
So I would have to go out and flag all of this, which is a week's work, we have to survey it all, which is a month's work. My client would pay me another 10 grand, which I would love. The house is already sold, it's been promised for a delivery date. You're gonna move everything back 3 or 4 months, could cost my client the sale. My client's
And-
borrowed the money to buy this land.
Norman, and I'm going to, and I'm gonna tell you why. I'm
My
not being a
client
wise
goes
guy here.
bankrupt because of his decision.
Not being a wise guy here. The property was on the market for a long, long time.
Yeah,
Again, many
but
people that are in this room
understand
looked
that
at this.
My client could go bankrupt because of this decision.
With respect to your client,
Yeah.
I feel that this project here, and I'm speaking for myself, is coming through around the back end trying to get it approved. And this one's not sitting well with me, and now that you've spoken more on it, it's sitting even less with me. So I'm standing with the motion on this one. And I'm sorry to your client, because I'm pro-business, I'm pro-development, I'm pro-construction. This one's not sitting right. I'm standing with the motion on this one.
It has been motioned and seconded, Norman, and like Bill said, I think that we're going the right way with it, and it's no financial harm to your client. You know what I mean, but it just needs to be done correctly. We just feel it's not done correctly.
Just one question, if he did his due diligence to break up the land to meet all the zoning requirements, hasn't the wetlands all been delineated? Like, you must have a lot of this information already.
Well, they've delineated what they need to for these 2 lots in
Break up
question. They're
land,
gonna come
you
back
have
to
to
lot
show
3
the
and lot 4.
wetlands, you have to show all the wetlands.
We showed all the wetlands on those 3 front lots, to show that they had enough upland. You have a bylaw that requires so much upland, so we showed.
So
that
you
we
must
had
have, this, my point is, he must have most of the information that you're asking.
Well, he's
for him
saying if he had to
in
do it,
there,
it would cost his client more money, and I don't wanna spend anyone's money.
Well,
Believe
then
me,
it's
I
to
don't wanna keep
file it
everyone
with
here.
Brandon, and then if there's consideration like before, on a bigger, he has to make the call on how much work it is to walk the wetland line and how much he would consider what it'll cost.
I know it's not money, it's time here, it's gonna put you off till the spring, and that's what the big issue is, I understand that, but I think it's a necessity.
See, I flagged all the wetlands within about probably 500 feet of the street, thinking that's where all the construction would take place, within 500 feet of the street. But the property goes back almost 2,000 feet.
Right.
So I only flagged 1/4 of the property, just the area that I thought where we would be working. So
I
didn't
think
see
what
the
we're
need.
saying, if you had broken 3 lots up, you probably wouldn't have our concerns.
If there's a possibility of the 4th lot, I
Well, I'm just,
absolutely want that.
because that's the thing that I struggle with.
Alright, so we gotta get,
Yep.
we're way behind, so we have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, 5-0. So, sorry, Norman.
So it's a lot of money for me.
Don't look at it
Oh,
that way,
yeah.
it's just doing what's right.
Well, I don't know if it's
Thank you.
Yeah, we need a motion to continue this this filing, right?
I'll
It's
motion to continue the filing until.
January 8th.
Well, I don't know if
Well,
Norman
with the
might.
permission, you have to
With the
give
applicant's permission.
With the applicant's
With the
permission, do you wanna
applicant's
continue?
Yes.
Okay.
January 8th enough time for you, or do you?
Not to get in the end, man.
Okay.
I'll need a
Okay,
couple
do you
months.
wanna go to the
I have to
next
survey it
meeting?
all, I might have a foot of snow in a week.
You wanna go to the 22nd?
No, I gotta put like the March.
Alright.
Hopefully the snow will be gone by March, it's been a tough winter so far.
First
First
meeting or
meeting in March,
second? Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
Like,
so
granted,
it'll
'cause we
be,
can't go out and flag wetlands in foot of snow,
March fourth,
or confirm a line.
At
Even
6:30.
continuous, doesn't matter if it's an inch, if it's continuous snow cover, it makes it very difficult.
All right, so we
they
need
just have to go out there and look.
motion to continue.
Alright, so I'll motion to continue until March 4th at 6:30 in 2020.
Yes.
Does that cover everything?
Yep, need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Norman, any monies that were paid for verification in this NOI can be discounted in the INRAD,
All right, thank you.
obviously.
Thank you.
And you might as well just come for a proposal, because I know the linear footage is probably gonna end up like the 5 digits, but it's not gonna, that's not what it's really gonna be.
Half a mile, all right, thank you.
All right. We're now at, 6:40 conservation time, which is gonna be 242 Boston Road.
Do I have to sign this?
It just goes to one.
That just goes back to Wanda.
Catch up with myself then.
6:40 conservation time.
Very unlike us. Excellent. Sometimes things are
Okay,
important.
this is the new plan.
It's a tragedy you're moving, Denise. It's awful. Best meatballs in all of Sutton. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 18th, 2019 at 6:40 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a notice of intent submitted to the Conservation Commission by Denise Cataldo, Sutton, Mass. The project consists of replacing a failed sewage disposal system on map 17, parcel 44, 242 Boston Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. We have a DEP number. Is this an NOI?
No, you don't have these
Yes.
numbers?
Yeah, it's written on here.
It is?
0920.
Oh, okay.
Did we get the abutters notifications back on it?
No.
The rate,
As you see, that's
Okay.
Okay.
Got 'em.
Board of Health pending.
We got approval from the agent, we gotta go through the formality for the board for the 2 variances.
Nothing,
Tentatively on the 14th.
nothing planning or appeals, right? No setback issues, okay. Alright, go ahead.
Alright, so what we
Just
have
some
here
variance, it's
obviously is,
appeals, right?
a house that you've discussed that, has a failed septic system at 242 Boston Road. This is Boston Road down here, this is Burbank Road up over here. It's quite a large parcel, I mean, it looks like, there's all kinds of places to put stuff, but this is a very steep slope coming down over here. This is, probably a 2-to-1 slope over here. They cut this all out for the garage. This material's all been filled in over in here and pushed around. This is an extremely steep slope out here to Burbank Road. There's actually another driveway that meanders out over here. And there's this driveway off of Boston Road right here. Currently, there's a tank right here that's been modified over the years. It doesn't conform, and we're gonna replace that. We're gonna put in a pump chamber. There's an old field right here. We're gonna abandon that. We're gonna pipe right through it. We did some soil testing in here, other than the first 3 to 4 feet of material, which was filled from this bank and over here. We ran into some really good material down over here. This is all existing lawn, this whole area in here. There's some sort of a surface drain. Right over here it's stone with perforated pipe in it. Partially eroded, whatever, that carries water off and around over here. There's retaining walls, I mean, we're not taking down any trees, we're not affecting any of this large slope that goes down to this BBW down here. The erosion controls, the 100% biodegradable wattles, we placed it along the edge of the lawn at the top of the slope. And that's pretty much the project. There's no trees, there's no vegetation. It's grass, it'll go back to grass, and no grade change.
Mr. Chairman, this is a Title V repair required. The work is more than 50 feet away from the wetland boundary and within existing lawn area, as you can see from this picture. The detail shows a combo wattle and silt fence, and due to the steep slope, which starts right around where this brush is, I recommend that we do a combo with the silt fence in this case. Otherwise, I recommend approval.
Anybody from the board have anything on this?
I don't think you've been here before, just make sure you don't put the mesh on the wattles.
No,
It's-
I understand.
yeah,
No, I have
okay.
been here though.
Oh, okay. Alrighty,
A motion to close the public hearing?
All those in favor?
Aye. Make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 242 Boston Road.
Second.
Special condition of,
Well, it's already shown on the plan.
it is, all right.
Yeah, I was just confirming it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Too
you.
bad you weren't first.
Your name again, sir?
You wouldn't have had to sit here for an hour.
Sutton from Sutton Engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lizette.
Good night.
I know, that wasn't, yeah. Order of conditions voted on, what is today, the 18th?
18th, yes.
Want to sign this one? This set of plans? It's not signed. Yep. All right, yeah, nice big one. All right, we're gonna have that one. Should get that. Catch it up.
We got 2 continuances.
Oh, see, we're gonna catch up. We're trying. Continuances. Next up is gonna be 6:50 conservation time, 26 Mallard Way.
Make a motion to continue 26 Mallard Way to January 8th, 2020 at 6:40 PM.
second,
Oh, wait a minute, no, yeah, 6:40, I just had to make sure I had the right time.
Do I have to waive, make a motion to waive the reading?
I don't think so. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Who did the second, I'm sorry?
I did,
I didn't sign this today. Yeah, I signed that. You guys just gotta sign this. Alright. Miss Richard, you're up next. This next one is gonna be the RDA for 55 Century Farm Road.
New RDA.
Alright. The Sutton Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing Wednesday, December 18th, 2019 at 7:00 PM, Sutton Town Hall, 4 Uxbridge Road, Sutton, Mass. The purpose of this hearing is to review a request for determination of applicability submitted to the Conservation Commission by Brenda Richards, Sutton, Mass. The project consists of the removal of dead trees hanging over wires to the house and driveway on map 29, parcel 21, 55 Century Farm Road, Sutton, Mass. This notice is publicized in accordance with the provisions of General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, commonly known as the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Welcome. Do we have the sketch on this? Oh, it must be on my iPad here, right?
Is it, see if it's on the board. I might have put it on that.
Hand-drawn plan, here we go.
But look on the yellow board,
The yellow board.
time sheet, yeah, look, on the last page.
No, I just got the signature sheet. Did you bring an extra copy with you by any chance? Oh, Brandon's got it up on the screen, we should be good, we should be good.
I might put it in there.
Alright, so as we talked about last meeting, there was some work done near the wetland. And we needed you to file so we could figure out exactly what was done and what we were gonna do in the future. And these were the 5 trees that you had taken down? Okay.
Where the wires are as well,
Yep.
that go from the street to my house.
Okay. Brandon, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't think it's exactly as advertised, according to my observations. So, the wetland does, cross over onto Ms. Richards' property from Marty Linda's side. The wetland is on the, Richards side of the stone wall. I put up some wetland tags here in pink, where the wetland boundary is. The stone wall is about right here. So, I saw more than 5 trees cut down, and I saw more than 5 dead trees. I saw a number of live trees that were cut down in this whole general area. And then they were all pushed, all the trees and the brush were pushed into the wetland itself, and it's pretty busy in there. That said, it's not the most, egregious thing I've ever seen. My recommendation is to, at this point, just leave it alone. If Ms. Richard decides to do a cleanup and retrieve the wood, it actually, I can't say that it would meet the letter of the law in regards to the 10-quarter wood provision, because you're supposed to cut evenly or equally in the understory and the
Canopy.
overstory and the understory, and it's been cleared out pretty good. But still, if she was to, or someone was to retrieve the wood for cordwood, for her own personal use, to get all that brush out of the wetland, that would be an improvement, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary, because it will ultimately just, rot and reincorporate itself into the soil. So my ultimate recommendation is to issue a negative determination with the condition that the area be left to regrow on its own.
Anybody from the board? I just noticed your email address on your application is buslady26. Were you a bus driver?
47 years. in
That
the
job
school
in
bus
itself,
business.
you would be a saint.
I drive the desk.
That is mitigation in its own, all by itself. I need a motion on this.
But, and I did, I spoke to some people in the area, and it does definitely look like it was cleaned off on the abutter's property, so, I think we should just make a note that Miss Richards did not know she was getting involved in this, and he hired someone, and thank you for coming in, and I wanna
Thank you for doing it the right way.
Thank you.
make a motion to issue a negative determination for 55 Century Farm Road.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Close the public hearing, please.
Go, make a motion.
to close the public hearing on 55 Century, right?
Yes.
55
Second.
Century Farm Road.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Who did the second on that, I'm sorry?
I did that one. Are you still driving bus?
No, I drive the desk
No.
now.
Bill made the motion, who made the second?
Zach made the motion, Bill did the second.
Back,
Which one,
Zach, yeah.
Which one you
Back
did
and
the
forth.
public hearing on?
Excellent.
That's
You're
it.
all set to go,
All
man.
over.
Merry Christmas to you.
Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you. I couldn't do that job. There's
No.
not a chance. There's a lot of jobs I say I could do. That's not one of them. Weatherman, maybe.
You're wrong a lot.
I know. That's what my wife says. All right. I need a motion to continue the next one.
Yeah.
I'll
Hold
make
on
a
a minute,
motion to
because
continue
I need-
25.5 West Sutton Road to January 8th, 2020 at 6:30.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the reason that was, is anybody here for that one, 21 and a half West Sutton Road? That was continued because there was an error in the mailing.
Actually, not even a continuous, just couldn't.
Yeah, well, I couldn't
Can't
even
open
open
it.
it. We couldn't even open it because the mailing was messed up, so that's
Oh, we
Yeah.
didn't need the motion to continue.
yeah, we didn't need the motion.
We didn't need the motion to continue, cause we're not even
not
opening
even
this.
Should I withdraw?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm wondering now, if we.
It never got opened.
It never got
Right,
opened.
but it's gonna be continued to another meeting.
No, it has to
it's
be
not.
refiled.
No, they have to
Gotta
yeah.
refile.
So the abutters should see a notice of that.
Well, it's not even refiled, they just, the
Need to set up.
notification has to be
Re-notification.
corrected before it can be opened,
Right.
that's all.
Right. And there was a question of whether or not we could still open it, and myself as chair
You
didn't
can't
feel
reopen
comfortable.
it, no.
Yeah.
I as chair did not feel comfortable, even if it was legal. It's not right. So, all right. So next meeting, it's right first one at 6:30.
January 8th.
January 8th. Yes, ma'am.
6:30.
6:30, yep. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry you had to sit here the whole time.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you learn anything?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't.
They don't wanna come back.
We've done enough already. We'll be back.
All right.
Yes, we will.
Back on schedule?
Thank you.
Are we back in school? Yeah, we're close, yeah. All right, under board business, at 7:20 PM, we have 290 Putnam Hill Road, wetland issue.
Right.
Hold on, I'm still trying to
Is that your house?
Yep.
Oh, excellent. Thank you for coming in.
You're welcome.
Sorry to bore you.
Oh, it's okay. We don't quite know why we're here, so.
I say that to myself every Monday morning at work.
That's the letter that went out.
All right. Watch out for that, Wanda.
Okay, Wanda?
We need you. Okay, I'll read Wanda's letter to the Raymonds. Dear Mr. Raymond, on November 27, 2019, while inspecting the above referenced property for a certificate of compliance under DEP file number 3030862, it was found that unauthorized work has and/or is occurring outside of the approved limit of disturbance at the rear of the house. Said work is being conducted within 100 feet of a vegetated resource area. The work appears to involve removal of an old farm junk, vegetative clearing, and soil disturbance, and has been done without prior authorization from the Conservation Commission, as required. The Commission requests that you come informally to the next Conservation Commission meeting, December 4th at 7 o'clock, to discuss this matter. Failure to respond will result in the delay of the issuance of certificate of compliance and potential enforcement action. Activities performed within the jurisdiction of the Commission, which includes wetland resource areas, wetlands, ponds, etc., in areas within 100 feet from a wetland and resource area, 200 feet from a perennial stream or a great pond, require review by the Conservation Commission under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and/or the Sutton Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Please cease and desist from any further activities in jurisdictional areas until that issue has been resolved with the Commission. Please contact the Conservation Office at our phone number, Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3:30, or Tuesday, 8 to 5:30, to confirm your scheduled time, the meeting on December 4th, 2019 with the Commission. So, sounds to me like there was an open order. What was the open order?
It was for that particular lot. It was a Gianni Romeo lot.
New house?
New house.
Okay.
The house is built, and I was there because a certificate of compliance request had been submitted. So I was there to do the final inspection. And everything in front looked great, but as I went around the back of the house, I saw this picture. And there's a small excavator, a little mini excavator, and it looks like they were cleaning up a bunch of junk, but the problem is that they're working beyond their approved limit of disturbance. So it's minor activity, but I can't not see it once I've already seen it, you know?
Is that project done?
Yeah, it was just picking up all the trash and stuff that was left behind it, and I figured it was better to clean it up than preserve it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, we have pictures of the junk that was left in the wetlands,
everywhere.
and it's
remember.
unbelievable that he was allowed to do that.
And that you
Well,
guys
that-
approved
we
the
believe you.
lines without having somebody clean that
Yep.
stuff up. Now I got tires and shoes and hoses and wires and
Yep.
all this crap
And
everywhere.
it wasn't a $200,000 house.
Right.
Right, I don't think that was
And
so
we-
much from the builder as it was from the old farmer,
Correct.
from, you know,
But,
50
you
to
know,
100 years
somebody
ago.
that approves everything, you would think would possibly,
Tell him he has to clean it up before he sells it.
yeah, I don't know.
Not necessarily, that's actually a pretty common thing on these old farms, they,
We-
before the municipal landfill system, everybody just dumped their trash in the swamp. That's what it
That's
was
nice,
for. So that was, they never requested it, and I do see it as minor. It's, you know, I did see too that grass was spread, so this grass seed was
Yeah,
spread, so
yeah,
that's a
yeah.
good thing. What I would recommend is just cease and desist at this point if you're all done.
Yeah,
There's still a few more of those buffer zone signs that need to be erected around the back of the house.
yeah.
And then I would recommend going back in the spring to make sure that everything is stable and that the signs are up. And once that happens, I think the commission can submit a certificate of compliance, but I think that the object of tonight was to bring this all to your attention.
Okay.
So, in the spring, once we get that compliance, can we remove those signs?
No,
No?
So they're gonna stay up forever? Because they're every 10 feet all up in front of our house, and that, we were never notified of that. We were told, when we were buying the house, we said, we wanna see the map, where are the wetlands, and he said, there's a little stream down by the end of the driveway, that's all you have to worry about. We moved all of our things in, we closed 2 days before, and he's putting up all these signs.
You c-
So, we were misled completely, and now we're stuck, and it's it's very frustrating. So, I don't know what we have for rights, or if there's anything we can do, but,
I think that's a civil
who
matter.
wants that on their private property?
I'm with you.
It's terrible.
I don't like the
It's
signs either, but-
tacky,
You
it's-
should have been here 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
should,
mean,
they should be every 50 feet.
I'd rather like a row of trees or shrub or something
We were just
like
talking about
that
this last
versus-
meeting.
Versus these signs, I think it looks commercial, it's
Was
kinda.
never disclosed to us.
There's no other way that we can amend
Well,
the
There
order.
is. The commission had been doing the option for the low, concrete or granite bound with the sign on top, so you don't have to look at the sign.
So-
That has been done.
The fact is, you need the sign. There's no way to get around it, but you can do it different. They make like a little granite rock with a plaque that you can glue to the top, right?
it's at ground level.
It's at ground level, so you're not looking at a
Oh,
tin
6
sign.
6 inches up.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think they make the rocks, I think those have
Well,
already been
you
made
know what
thousands
It's
of
a
years
granite
ago.
boundary marker.
Yeah.
But how much is that gonna cost us for 30
What,
of
you
them?
build it, doesn't he, I mean.
There's a
do
place,
the
I don't know
chair,
what they
but I mean-
cost. There's a place on Route 20 and that makes the granite, they cut the granite.
But what's, if I could,
Yes, sir.
so if your builder to close out this order of conditions that we're not gonna close out, he has to do all these things, you don't.
Okay,
Just so you understand, this is up
Good.
to your builder, not you.
okay.
But unfortunately, cause you closed, the order of condition is recorded against your title. Well, but I mean, it's not us, this is the process.
No, I know, it's just how do we hold
And
him accountable,
we ask,
cause he's not
So,
the business.
unfortunately, in real estate, it's civil, and you have to go back to your attorney, because he should have, you hired an attorney to represent you to buy this.
Yep,
I would talk to your attorney.
yeah.
And that's
I
not
know-
to sue anybody, it's that he should have advised you that when you closed with an open order of conditions, what could happen. That's their job.
Right.
That's
And
why
we-
it's a
we
civil
should've
matter,
been-
not
we
a
should've
conservation
been
matter.
Notified in the closing that there was all these wetlands.
You were. On your deed, it had to show up. It's a recorded deed on your easement, on your
Plan.
title.
It's on the
I'd
plan
like to
too.
tell you this is a rare occurrence, but it's not.
Yeah.
Through the chair, a couple questions. Did you get all the junk out of there that you wanted to get out?
No,
No.
So I'd like to ask the question. I, for one, love to see old farmland cleaned up, the old tires, all the junk out. So this is me speaking here. Done a lot of that tonight. I'd like to see them continue getting the junk out of there, as long as they don't go nuts, damage
Right,
anything. Get the
right.
tires, the
I
junk,
mean,
Right.
Up there was car parts and cables and
An
paint
old
cans.
pool.
and from what you did there, it looks nice, in my opinion. So
Right,
the
try
second,
not to-
second question is, do you still have the mini there? Or do you have
Yeah.
access to it?
we own it, and it's not to do major projects, it's just something he wanted to have, and
So are there any boulders on the property, any rocks you can move with that are about the size of, I don't know,
Yeah. There are, but they're in those, probably in those areas that are.
I would like to ask the board here, because this is what I brought up 2 weeks ago about the signs, that people don't like them and they wanna take them down after it's gone, and I agree with you, I think they
Yeah.
belong in commercial properties, not in residential. Could we allow big boulders to be placed in place of the signs, or rail fence or something, because,
Do they wanna do that?
well, I'm asking them, I'm
Yeah.
trying to work with them, I'd like them to clean up the junk, I think they wanna clean up the rest of the junk.
absolutely.
They've got a mini excavator, which I'd like to borrow, but, I'm just trying to come up with something else so they don't have to spend a ton of money, and it sounds like they're pretty handy.
Is
cleaning
that
up.
That's
green
the-
all wetlands? I was
That's,
gonna say, okay.
no, that's.
Because the plan we were
That's the
originally
wrong one.
given when we were, put the deposit down in the house was different than the actual approved plan. It was his first version or something like that. So I just called our attorney this morning to get the final plan, and I haven't heard back.
You
But our
should be
Realtor-
able to pull it off of Mass Land Records. It should be filed with your deed on Mass Land Records.
Okay,
It should
It
be.
should
be
reference
in
the
system.
plan.
Should be.
So in your
Through the
data,
chair.
it will reference the plan number and you just have to look that up in the
Okay.
registry.
After Mike, I have a question as well.
So-
It's very easy.
The only other trash that I was hoping to clean up was down towards the road by the mailbox. There's old tires and tractors,
shoes.
carts, and
Gotcha.
tons of boots.
So, this is how it works. You gotta get your site plan.
Yeah.
You have an open order of conditions on your property. Anything that you wanna do, just mark it up on the plan. Come in and ask for a field, minor field change. So we have a record of what they're doing, that's how you're supposed to do this. We're
Yeah.
not supposed to just let people clean up.
Oh,
I
yeah,
know,
no,
these
I-
are just the rules, it's not that, I'm with Bill, I want you to go, I want you to clean it up. Two things, there's state regulations and we have bylaws. The bylaws, those signs, that line, technically you're not supposed to do anything beyond that sign. Not clean up brush, not pick up cars.
Actually, well, this one had because there used to be a hayfield.
Well, they can, oh, okay,
They're allowed to
right.
mow the field.
But I think they're in the woods right now, right? This is the
Yeah, they're in the
backyard.
wood, they're in the woods.
Talking
So
about
that
the
area's supposed to
backyard.
be known.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
We're talking about the signage, so if you understand the regulations of the town, the reason those signs are there is so that you understand where you're not supposed to go. I think what Bill's asking is to do boulders. I, for one, would put them along the wetland line, I'm just one person. Then if you had a 4-foot sign, it's along the edge of the wetland, it defines the edge, but we don't want you going in the buffer zone. We want it to be left, cause you built a file and did all this disturbance and built the house and did a driveway, so I know you see what's left is just your backyard, but there was a bigger disturbance that was looked at as the whole lot. So remember that, it's not that we don't want you to go in your backyard, it's that's why if you just mark it up, clean it up, get it all nice, you can mow the front field like Brandon said.
And a little bit on this
It's
side.
too bad that the people buying houses don't know these things.
I know,
When
I
you-
feel for them. I mean,
So,
That would
at the
be-
registry of deeds, you just could hope that attorneys would educate their buyers to say, well, you have an open order of conditions, you should at least get that from your builder, you should get the set of plans, you should get the written order of conditions, and understand what you're buying when you close.
Were you told you had a lien on your property?
No,
See, you have a lien on your property until the order of conditions is closed out. And your attorney should have picked up the fact that there's a lien on that property.
but the seller of the property, who just built this, it's
Yes,
not like
should
it's
tell 'em
a
also.
150-year-old house. Should have been upfront with them, and they're in there cleaning up junk, and again, I know they're in the wetland, but
One second, just, not to cut you off, but just before I lose the thought, Mike's right. So what I want you to do is just print out the existing, order of conditions,
okay,
call Wanda, ask for a minor field change, and write what you want differently on that, and come in for a hearing.
okay.
Okay, it'd just be a minor field change, just procedurally, it looks cleaner.
And this is the plan that,
Okay, Zach, you had something on this?
if you don't
Yes, I
have
have a
this
question.
plan,
You
this
said
is
there
the
were
plan
signs
that was
for like every
approved by this
10
board.
feet, but we only
So where are
require
the
like
wetlands, all of
50.
the green?
She just wasn't, she doesn't have.
No,
a
the
plan.
green is the
Yeah,
area.
she's
around-
exaggerating.
This plan will
Probably.
help her
This lawn.
understand what's
Okay.
going on.
Yeah, let me see if I have an extra plan.
House doesn't sit that way to the driveway.
Yeah, that's not
That's,
the right,
it's
Right, they changed the configuration, but it wasn't so significant that, I mean, usually when there's a septic system, an as-built plan, the Board of Health comes in,
Cause I agree.
which we actually do have. So
Yeah,
what
this
they
is
did,
a third
the house was
copy,
like,
so-
That it's every
which was
50 feet.
You can
180
have that
inches,
plan, it's a third copy.
which is fine, but the important thing is that this outside line here didn't change. But the wetland,
We're
you
gonna
have
have to schedule a
wetland
couple of
in the front
special
field.
Specifically for that.
These,
Or-
this line right here is the wetland boundary. So you have a wet meadow in the front, and then you have wetland all down here, and then that, you can't see on the plan, but then it curls up like this. Here's the overview.
can you also show us where the wetlands are in the back, because it was also advertised that we had room for an in-ground pool at down the road.
You probably do have some room in here somewhere, if you can fit it, but that would have to be another application, so
Yeah, I'm just
the wetland line
saying,
does go
yeah.
deeper into the woods, and you're working, over in this area here.
Yeah.
So you're still within 100 feet, and each one of these black dots right here is a sign, they're every 50 feet. And there's a lot of them because it's a long way, there's a lot of wetland line, and it's a long way to the road.
Yeah, I'm with you, I'd like to see
So-
rocks there rather than signs.
Andy, is this gonna be a, amendment? or-
Yeah, minor field
well,
change.
can I ask from the chair and Brandon too, while they're here, the ground's pretty hard right now, and we don't have any more snow coming today. Can we allow them to get the rest of the junk out of there, so they're not doing it in the spring, or when there's 3 feet of snow on the ground? I mean, I'm clearly not opposed to it, and I think they spent quite a bit of money on a new home, I'm sure they wanna get rid of the
Yeah,
junk.
can we allow them to finish up?
That's your discretion, Mr. Chairman.
I would like to see you finish up.
Which I'm sure you wanted.
Is
to.
anybody?
It's frozen, it's the
is
best
an-
time to do
Is
it.
That's what
anybody,
I'm
is
saying.
anybody
No,
against
I'm-
them?
Yep, as long as they come back and just kinda like
Okay.
document that they
But
did it,
yeah,
that's all I was saying.
but please do just come back for a minor field change on your thing.
You can hand draw it on the plan, just,
Okay.
this is where we picked up
We don't-
junk, and then nobody can
Wanda,
say
do we
anything.
charge anything for
Then you
that?
did it right, no one can go
Well,
back
minor
on you either.
field change and an amendment are two different things.
Okay, so what do we
Minor
want?
field changes.
Minor
nothing.
field change is what?
Nothing, that's just to
Okay.
come to an
Perfect.
order.
That
So-
protects you, then it's in black and white in our file, so if you sell the house 5 years from now, or whoever, it's on there, there's no
Okay.
questions asked.
Perfect.
Then I
But
would
then-
recommend voting on a minor field change, so it's on the
No,
record,
because-
and it can be put in the file.
Well, can we do it? Yeah. Could we make a?
So we-
Give me permission to go and clean up all the.
Can we? Yeah, but they want it, what, do you wanna discuss what you wanna do for your wetlands markers and,
Yeah, cause I
If you
would
came
like-
back and had a plan.
if you came back and had a plan and marked them out, what you wanted to put where, it would be easier for us. And then it's black and white, I don't think that's something that we could go over, tell you what you want tonight,
Yeah, right.
you know?
But you're saying the builder's responsible for the,
The builder's responsible for what he was approved for,
Which were
so
signs.
if it's signs, then he's gonna do
Through the
signs.
chair, just so you understand, I believe once you close,
He's not responsible.
you took on that responsibility.
okay.
Oh,
Just so,
really?
I don't wanna
Yeah.
speak, I don't know what's in the language of your
Yeah, I'm not a
documents,
lawyer, I don't know. I
But
don't
I
know.
think that's why you lawyers are supposed to go
Yeah,
through
once you
everything and make
close.
you understand, but Nicole worked in the law firm, but maybe she doesn't wanna weigh in, cause you wanna get the right
Well,
advice.
I mean,
but-
the other thing is, you run the title report at a certain point, and if the order of conditions was recorded after the title report was ran and it wasn't run again,
Well, just in this case, I know it
you have a
wasn't,
clean
because
title.
he had to file to build the house, and they didn't buy it until it was built, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I
Closed on
mean,
it end of October.
there was
You
no
just
way
bought
that
the
wasn't
house
all in
6
place
weeks ago?
prior.
Yeah, we moved in the 24th.
Well, just a question, you know what, you brought up a good point. Did he do his pre-construction meeting? Did he go through all the proper channels on this house so that it was recorded?
I did do a
Brandon,
pre-construction.
I went there and Brandon went there.
Oh, I'm just,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
I mean,
This-
technically what Nicole's saying could,
When I
There's
did
a
the
have happened.
construction
But
meeting,
this-
it was
yeah.
for all of these
I know.
lots all at once, cause
This
this
came
was a
in-
4-lot subdivision.
The same time as Singletary,
Yeah.
125 Singletary.
Right, and there are over 20 signs
No, it wasn't at
for
the same
this
time as
property
Singletary.
alone.
When me and Brandon looked at it, it was, this
You
fall.
went and looked
These
at it?
4
yeah.
lots?
This last fall, it was.
now I see why the statement you made when you first came in, you
You
didn't
also-
understand.
You
Yeah.
buy, I'm not a lawyer either, but you do buy title insurance when you buy a house, so you might wanna just consult with your
And
attorney.
see what would be covered.
See
under-
what the title report said when it was run,
Okay.
make sure that the order of conditions
See
was
that?
recorded.
That is a good point.
Everybody
Big
buys
bucks.
title
See if what is-
insurance.
was recorded?
Make, see if the order of conditions shows up on the title report, cause you should have been advised of that if it was.
And if it isn't,
Well,
Then you
they
have-
have to report to Wanda too, that it's recorded.
Just look
We're
at it and
supposed to
then
have a
speak to your
copy
lawyer
of-
and just get
I'm
clarification
sure
on
it's
what happened.
recorded,
Right
but
there,
it
hold
might-
on, Wanda probably has
No,
it
it
right
has
here
to
in
be
the file.
recorded.
We're supposed, that's,
No, but it's a matter of when it was recorded
Yeah,
versus
she's
when the
talking about the
title
date,
report
whether it
was.
was before or after,
Yeah.
right?
right, but technically in our town, to start construction, you have to
It's
do a
been
pre-construction
recorded.
meeting.
It's been
Which to do
recorded.
that-
When was it
Tell me what
recorded?
the
In
date-
order to, in order
Yeah.
to start work,
Okay,
there's a
so it should
pre-construction
show up
meeting,
on your
and
title
the
report.
order has to be recorded, we
Okay.
need proof of that.
I didn't know that.
When was the date?
May 14th.
So it definitely
2015.
showed up on the title
It's
report.
been recorded.
So just to clarify, so they can leave here and enjoy Christmas, or about.
yeah, we got this one day before we were leaving on vacation, so it was
Ah.
awesome, yeah.
We don't wanna wreck your
Yeah.
day, your night,
Yeah.
are we in agreement that we're okay with them cleaning up the
Yeah,
junk?
I'm fine with that, yep.
As long as it's not muddy.
This probably isn't as bad as it sounds, cause what we're saying is get your plan, understand what you had to do by that plan and come see us.
Yeah.
Right? So if
Yeah.
they wanna leave with a clear,
And if you
not
s-
worrying about
If
it.
you wanna change your signs to
We wanna help
rocks or
you guys
something,
out,
yeah.
cause,
Right.
well.
Our job is for you to
we truly feel
understand
bad
the
that you
rules.
don't know what
Yeah.
you were throwing at, so.
And then how do we get the
Trees.
lien off the
Yeah,
property
keep the
once
brush
all this?
disturbance.
Certificate of compliance releases the
In
lien.
April, okay,
I think what you need in,
or spring.
right,
So they
You don't
understand.
make it a lawn bag
I get it.
you know?
Just so you understand, the only thing stopping it right now was that you did some stuff in the back, and it stemmed us to have a conversation, but signs aren't done.
Right, there's about 5 signs left in the back that still need to be put up.
And then technically you'd meet the requirements, right? But you don't
Well,
wanna close
I
it.
wanna wait till the spring to see, make
Right.
sure it's stable. And
It's in
see that
your-
the signs are up, but it looks like there might be a request to change the type of sign to the low sign, so they don't have to be staring at those ones 4 feet high.
But the reason that they're there is to let people know in the future that you can't go beyond that.
Right, but I don't understand, if we can mow it, I
Well,
don't
there's
understand
a
what
condition on the
yeah.
mowing. You can't turn that field into a lawn. You can mow it twice a year, only after between July 15 and October 15.
The front yard?
Well, the area that's immediately around your house within the signs here, so this line right here,
Yeah.
and this line right here, that's your lawn that you get to manicure. This old field right here cannot be turned into lawn. It can only be used as like a continued hay field, because that's what this lot was, it was a hay field.
Yeah.
So you can cut it a couple times a year to keep it clear, keep it from turning into forest. And there's a section right in here, so there's a line right here, and all along this edge on the side of this side of the driveway, you can hay what was the old field as well, so that doesn't turn into forest. But it can't be turned into lawn. That was
The
the
reason
agreement.
is
That was the agreement back then.
there are lots of birds that nest in fields and so forth, so you can't mow it till after the nesting period is done.
Right, those dates, what were the dates?
July 15 to October 15 is the time of year you can cut it.
That should be in the plan that's filed with your
Right, you
deed
can-
as well.
And no more than twice in 1 year.
Okay,
You can hay it, brush hog it.
yeah.
Burn it. Just don't let it get out of control.
Yeah, cause a good, about half of that
Yeah, didn't you do
front
that?
field
Allegedly.
is wetland. It's a wet meadow. Yeah, it's a wet meadow, so it's really wet, and you don't wanna be in there in April, May anyway, you're gonna
No.
get stuck.
Right.
So that silt fence that runs up and down the driveway on the left, that can be removed as part of this?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it needs to be removed,
Cause that's still there too.
right.
All right. Do you get everything?
Thank you
So,
both
yeah.
for
Thank
coming
you. If you have
in.
any questions, just call Wanda.
Okay.
All right?
Sorry you had to sit here for
Thank
2
you.
hours.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It was
we
an
didn't mean to
education.
do
That was
anything
good.
wrong.
That was good, yeah, I
No,
like that.
we know that.
I'm not here next week, okay?
Okay,
The office
thank you.
is closed.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas.
Good night.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
All right, new to town, welcome.
Next up is the minutes from December 4th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December 4th, 2019.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion on the permit primer mailed out with the order of conditions, guidelines, rules and regs,
I have people-
revisions for the website.
Okay, so do we wanna do the permit primer first?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, what I did was I made copies of what Brandon sent, because I did send them to you. The yellow part on page 2 is the addition of what we wanna do to try to get people to understand the signs.
must be.
So it's on page 2, it's the yellowed out area that I asked Brandon if he could add some information in there. And then I can use these to mail out with the order conditions that I mail out with them all the time.
It's a first draft, do whatever you want with it.
I think this is telling people that they have to use the galvanized post with the sign.
Yeah, I tried to state it as concisely as possible, so there's no questioning on what materials need to be used and how it is to be erected.
I think we should put a line in there that any different sign requested needs to be issued as a variance or something like that.
Special
Approved.
requests.
Approved by the board.
Approved by the board, just as this says you can't do anything else, and I don't like that you can't, you know what I mean, I just wanna sign, everywhere's a sign.
Perfect
Sing
example
that?
scenery, breaking my
So
mind.
what kind of, you wanna add?
I
any
don't know,
different
somebody word it
sign?
correctly, cause I don't speak so
yeah.
eloquently.
Somebody.
Well, I have a question. Do we wanna put it black and white that they're going along the edge of disturbance or wetland? So this means you could never make any deviations, cause this is some of what I say, if we,
Yeah.
like, whatever the rules, you start to be, so if we write this, so like somebody like this lot that just was in front of us with signs, is that the look we want for our town?
Right.
You talk about granite bounds, those are, so if they're in the field, they're hard to mow.
Why don't we just say at the
So,
end?
Joyce, let me finish, please, I'm sorry. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't vote for this way, this rigid. Sometimes you don't have to always put it in writing. You can leave it more of a gray area. As we have discussions as a board, we can come to common grounds that makes more sense and look at each piece individually, because this is a farm town and it is beautiful. We all agree on one thing. We want some kind of signage that defines some kind of a limit of something. So we're not so far, well,
Right, I gotcha.
but once you start to do things like this, it becomes rigid, and I don't wanna be that person. And this isn't to let anybody get away with anything, it's to do what's right, and what will make a difference. So I think this needs a lot of work, that particular, if we're gonna start to even put it in there. We could leave it the way we've been doing it. Most of the applicants are gonna go along the edge of disturbance, most of the applicants are gonna do a sign based in concrete. But we can leave it up to discussion when we wanna try to not have a 4-foot sign, whether it be a boulder or a granite bound, or we decide to do none of those and put it along the edge of the wetland, or not do the front yard. That's just my opinion when it comes to signage. I work in a lot of towns, I've said it before, and there's all different ideas of where and how it should be done. So there isn't a perfect way. That it's been patented and we know that that's the way it's gonna work. I still remain to see how long these signs last, because the more restrictive we are with them, the less people are gonna leave them. The more that we just use our heads on each project to do it, to make a difference, that's the kind of language I would wanna see, if we're gonna put it in writing.
I think the reason it came up was because the last sign with the wood and there was no clear black and white.
Of what a sign is.
Actually, it was, and it was in the permit primer, but people
You just
didn't
didn't
read
follow
that ahead of time. Cause it's always been in there, right, with the,
Oh, in
In the special
In
conditions.
the case of, the Barnett Road,
Yes.
right? It was on the plan, what they were supposed to do with the galvanized and the
right,
concrete.
and he ignored
They
it,
just didn't follow it,
right.
but the commission, was trying to give them some relief.
So it has been in there, it's just that they don't read it, so.
So if we, I mean, like Brandon said, it was his first shot and it was clear in black and white, but buffer zone signs must be erected at the approved limit of work disturbance, per the specifications in the order of conditions. Maybe it could say buffer zone signs will be erected at the approved limits of work or disturbance. Just not so harsh so that it doesn't make it look like we have to be so rigid, is all I would ask for.
About buffer zone signs or equivalent will instead of must.
Yeah, just a few little things that give us the discretion on certain projects to not be so rigid is all I'm asking for.
Okay.
Cause I truly, I mean, the other thing is how do we police, like, that's another whole thing, and I don't
Right.
wanna be here till midnight, but don't you feel bad? And that's a lawyer's job, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I've seen this before, but your lawyer, you hire to represent you, to do your transaction. And the minute that lien came up on the deed and it wasn't brought to their attention that there was a conservation, cause the banks, I'm surprised let them, like, maybe there was a time where
They
none of
should
them
look
got
for it.
through, I guess, but I guess
Didn't she
this.
say she was told they had something, but they didn't know the extent? And he said, yeah, you just got a little stream or river
Yeah.
over here. And then the signs were put up after she
told-
closed again.
Like, and I hate to say it, a lot of people just use the bank attorney and don't enlist their own buyer's representation, cause they think the bank's looking out for them, when the bank's looking out for the bank.
Shame on them, and it's ignorance of the law, right? I don't know, like, each their own.
But you know what?
If I didn't work for a lawyer, I would've just let
You wouldn't know any better,
I
probably.
wouldn't have known any
Right.
better for my first house.
I agree, most people do this like
At
once in their life, maybe twice.
20-something years old, I wouldn't have known.
No, I know, you're right,
But
Nicole.
here's, I think, a point we need to make clear. In the case of, I believe it was the Raymonds who just left, they bought a house from a builder who's built multiple homes in the town. When the first went on Lincoln Road, someone coming in who's been here before us. Those things bother me when it's someone in here all the time or it's a builder. When you got someone like this that didn't know any differently, I'll give them a pass. But these builders should be doing it the right way.
You know what, I just had a thought, Bill. Life has a way of finding its way without talking about any people or any things, because we can't police everything every minute. But we all know that we are in a small town and it doesn't take long for everybody to know everybody. Let's leave it at that, because we can't fix it.
Word of mouth is your best
That's-
advertisement or negative.
So is everybody okay with this, or buffer zones or equivalent will be erected? Does that make sense?
It's easy for me to just see it rewritten, just send it by email. We don't have to pass this.
I would
Yeah, we don't
just,
have to
I
ban
would just
Just
put
rewrite
I
it,
would just
send-
put a thing at the end saying, Any alternatives must be approved by the board.
Just rewrite it and send it to me.
Yeah.
Just- I'm not agreeing to that, just, it's easier to see it written like this and say,
This isn't something we have to vote on.
no, no.
No, I don't think we, considering everything that's going on with it, I think we wanna give it some real serious thought too,
Right.
right?
Brandon,
All right.
you have the
Okay,
cap-
well,
caps
take
lock
it
on.
and.
Yeah, take it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
send it to everybody.
I know what I just wrote. I'll give it to you.
Alright.
Do you want me to put it on the next meeting, or?
As far as the policing goes, I think that's what the buffer zone signs were designed to do, because without any kind of marker, we move on to the next application, and the next application, before you know it, there's been 100 gone by, and you can't be policing every one of them, so the signs were meant to be kind of a self-policing kind of thing, at least to let people know where you're supposed to stop.
So you said there's 4 signs missing in the backyard on that?
Yeah, 4 or
Well-
5. They were just never put up,
They weren't?
no.
Oh, I was just wondering if they could take it down. You didn't do, so they weren't in the backyard, yeah, I don't know.
In the backyard where they were doing the work, there were still 5 signs that 4 or 5 signs that needed to be put up back there, that just were never put up. Or, I don't know, maybe they were taken down, I don't know.
No, you know, this is the thing, and people,
When you saw the question she asked, well, can we take those signs down? So I think even people put the signs up that, unless we're out there policing it, or unless they're really educated, they're not gonna know. Especially when they're someone who buys the property.
It becomes the lesser of all the evils, and what you wanna do, that's your call.
It does say in perpetuity, right?
so just take this
It
in
says
as
that
a
in the
case
order
of,
of
Yeah.
if they were along the wetland line, they'd be all there until they rotted out of the ground.
You're probably right.
That's all I was saying, is that we should look at it case by case.
Yeah.
And this might have been a case, and maybe when they come back and we're considering wetland boundaries, and we take a look at it.
Take out, well, we don't have to do it tonight, but instead of limit of work disturbance, maybe we could word it, limit of work disturbance or edge of wetland.
Just a question, so the criteria to what it has to be, is that? This is what somebody gets when they
Yeah,
pull the paperwork?
yeah, when they file for.
Right, right.
No, this is what somebody gets when they get their order of conditions mailed to them. These are instructions.
So at this
what they
point,
need
they've
to
already
do.
gone through the whole process, and how this is
Right.
really worded is a moot point.
As if you see the first bullet is got the number of.
Right.
This is just a reminder.
This
So,
is
no,
This
so
is
they,
what they need to do
so-
after they're done.
hear me out, what if it says buffer zone signs, see your order of conditions, and it's highlighted in big letters, and it makes them aware of that they, well, so this is after the fact,
would
they've
be
gone through all the
special
approval, it's already
conditions.
approved of what it's gonna be.
Mhm.
If we're putting something together so that either
Yeah.
people buy, or it's to educate them to know, it should just see your order of conditions, as far as signage goes, to give an explanation of it. It could be, right, I mean, couldn't it be that simple? And that's what I was asking for.
That makes sense.
So then they can go to their order conditions, whatever we have decided to do for signage, they'll get it in their order conditions
Yeah.
with their plan. And then there's, cause remember, every time you start to make, this is one paragraph and a whole bunch of paperwork that people get.
Right.
Well,
Yep, I get you.
and each
Nobody's
person
gonna
should
look
just
at it,
follow
right?
their order condition and their plan. Well, the best advice to give somebody is, and I've said it, follow,
Go by your plan.
just follow what you have. You've been to the board, we've closed the public hearing, we've given you an order of conditions, we've agreed to a plan, just follow it. So the best advice you can give everybody, get your order of conditions and get your plan, and if you need help understanding it, call your engineer.
Or if something doesn't quite work with your plan, come back and let us know.
Talk to, yeah, we're very, yeah.
All right, next up is gonna be guidelines, rules and regs.
Before you do that, on 26, Mallard, okay, Karen dropped off the plans. Now, I know she sent me a PDF, so you all should have a PDF of the new plans that she sent. Do you want the hard copies? I have
I'd like
four
one,
here.
'cause I can't blow them up on my computer. If you
Okay,
have one,
so
if you have
Was
one
it
extra.
you all
26
should
Mallard
have the
continued tonight.
PDF. You know how you want these the week before the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna be here next week, so she dropped them off today.
I think it's more for
and she
Brandon, I mean.
sent me-
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave him a copy, I just
I have
filed these.
Offer it to- thank you, that was nice of her.
Alright, I'll file these with the others.
I'll take one.
You want one?
Yeah, one, I'll take one too.
Okay.
Don't get it dirty.
Just so you can look, now, these are the extras, so So if anybody wants another one, there's one
Save
here.
it for the meeting for
Spill
me.
your spaghettios
I
on.
like looking at it.
Did you stamp them all in because it's,
I stamped them all in,
Okay.
there says today's date,
I didn't wanna take the,
Alright.
so I will just put them in file here.
Moving right along.
Okay, so the next one.
The guidelines, rules, and regs.
Okay, Joyce and I reviewed these. I know I sent them to you, but I made copies to make it a little easier. I think what they are. Okay, so we have the present guideline. Wait a minute, no, I get the papers all mixed up. And the revised. We went from several pages because what's happening is some of the engineers are copying this 5-page thing that, did I give you both?
I just got one.
Okay, which one are we at? Back when Mark was here, we had quite a few pages that had for subdivisions and commercial. So Joyce and I took a look at it and said, we really don't need that anymore,
It's a lot better.
because the shorter version is a lot better.
and we spent 3 hours last
Oh, yeah, it
Wednesday
was
going
fun.
through this and trying to get some of the superfluous stuff out
The
that
teacher in you came back, huh?
didn't need to be there,
Mhm.
or
Alright.
verbal diarrhea, as I like to call it.
Now, they're double-sided, so if you look at page 2, notice of intent, request for determination or RDA. Now, what's happening is they're filling this sheet out. Well, I think it's unnecessary, because if you now look at the first page of a notice of intent.
Right, it's double.
Unfortunately, I picked something, so I think we should take that page out also, cause that was a page for me to fill out, because we did not have Brandon back when I first started here. So that gave me a little bit of information so that I could write out the information for the meeting. So I think we should take page, well, it's actually page 3.
Page 3.
Page 3 out.
So we didn't take that out the other day, but what
Right.
Wanda and I were discussing today was that all this information is actually redundant, cause it's in the notice of intent form, so we can actually cross out this page 3.
And that page 3 is actually, I think, page 10 or something, the other one, after those 5 pages.
Yep.
And then after that is my checklist that I use for each filing, where it has all the money that comes in, the check numbers, what they paid, the amounts, and the balance. So I make my budget sheet from that page, which I keep right in each file, because without the paper copies, if the computer screws up, I've got the paper copies. So I have all the budgets on paper and in the computer.
Brandon, did we take out anything that's necessary?
Yeah, I think, Wanda and Joyce are right, this page right here is duplicative accurate.
Yeah. Yeah, take that out, and I'm okay with it. Is everybody okay with that?
Cause the shorter we can make this,
I read
the easier
through
it is to read.
Yeah, I looked at it in my email.
And we tried to take out a lot
Anytime
of
you go-
details that didn't need to be in
Right,
there.
anytime you go from this to this, I'm happy.
Less is more.
Less is
Because
more.
I can
Oh,
have
they
the
already redid it?
people,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't
go
see it.
put
I
that
only
on the
got
website.
what it was. Oh,
sorry, Mike.
I was gonna say, can we see it all done?
It's a lot
so
lighter.
we're crossing out
that
that
page-
page 3.
We're getting rid of this
And to
one.
get rid of
Yeah.
that one too, yeah.
Right, and it won't be double page, I just
No, no, I
did it
hear
that
ya.
way so we could save paper, so we could see what we're doing.
So it's a lot simpler,
Yeah.
it goes to
And
4
then
pages,
the
that's
last
easy.
2 pages.
Love it.
The last 2 pages is state regulations
Love it.
anyway, so.
Good job, you guys. That's
Perfect.
hard
Yep,
work.
that is hard work.
The last 2 pages
That
is
is work that I cannot do.
information
Yeah.
that's on the website also.
Excellent.
So
Alright.
it's really just informative, the last.
So everybody,
Yeah.
everybody likes it, good job.
So we would like to vote on it tonight so we can get it on for the first of the year.
Make a motion to update the guidelines, rules and regulations to the revised of December 11th, 2019.
It's not the rules and regulations.
It's just the
It's just the guidelines.
Guidelines
We missed
for
one.
application.
Yeah, is that all right, Jake?
That's
The
really-
guidelines
that's
revised
really
of December 11th, 2019.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
This is really good.
Looks good. Good work.
The old one and the new one, nice.
Okay.
Yeah, because what's happening, I'm getting all this 23 pages of it with the notice of intent, which doesn't belong. So it's unnecessary for us to.
Next up is 10 Leland Hill Road from 2001. Is this the one that we asked them to give us a letter from,
Hold on a
Yes.
minute, what are we
did they
at?
give us a letter? Or did they keep fighting us on it?
Now we're on
10 Leland Hill
10
Road.
Leland Hill.
have an old letter
Okay,
or an as-built?
no.
Is this the
no,
one?
wait a minute.
This isn't the one the lawyers wanted, no,
Don't
we
know.
did that
Oh,
the
it's
last
not,
one.
this is a different
Yeah.
one.
This
Oh,
is a
okay.
different one.
Oh,
This is, it is from the lawyer, John Barron Esquire, Worcester. Hold on, I've got her email here somewhere.
Is this the one that they wanted a new COC, cause I couldn't find the old one or something?
Yeah, and
I thought we did that last-
the lawyer wanted a double, another signature
Wanna say Joyce is right, I think we did this one last
but-
week. The last
Yeah, it
meeting.
didn't get signed,
Oh.
and the lawyer wanted another signature page. If we give another signature page, we.
Maybe that was what it was.
So we have an old signature page? It's been signed on once, they just want a new one?
Yeah, they want a new one, however, this form is very, very old.
Yeah.
And this is what the signature page looks like, and it
Is
was
it signed off?
notarized. It's signed off,
If
yeah.
it's signed off, then I have no problem signing a new one.
I'm just wondering if we can do an attest
I know, yeah.
from the town clerk.
Don't we
Yeah,
have
this
to
is-
have them refile a new, certificate of compliance and we have to sign the new one, right?
Yeah,
They're
that's
just
what
looking for
I
an
have
original
here.
signature,
They're
right?
looking for an original signature.
So it's already
but-
been, it's
Yeah,
already
it's
been issued.
just to get it off the.
Just to get it
Just-
off the record, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll sign it. We don't need a motion on it, do we?
No, I think
just
there's a
sign
bit
it.
of
Think so.
silliness going on, but this is the easiest way out of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
just sign the new one.
Alright, so here's the new one.
Oh, things like this don't get silly, Brandon, come on.
It's just that it's an old form, and why, I don't know why the lawyer wants new signatures, but.
Maybe the lawyer's doing his or her job and wants to clean it up.
Right,
Diligence.
there could be a lawyer that's checking into things.
Okay, we have no department sign-offs.
They wanna sell it,
Meeting.
they want a clear title.
Right. This is good, you guys just need to sign this and we can adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Good meeting.
I'm sorry,